Hey, everybody, and happy Saturday. Welcome to another edition of Fix Your Plate with Dr. Monique. That must make me Dr. Monique, your host, who you also know as the physician in the kitchen. I am your board certified family physician, your two-time Amazon bestselling author, professional blogger, social media influencer, and all around just a good human being. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to our I like to call it our quiet time together. Um, I like being able to reach folks in all manner of media. So that's why you'll see me on social media. You'll hear me here on the radio and podcasts. And it's all because I'm also an author. And a lot of the stuff we talk about week in and week out is also material or information that is covered in my newest best-selling book, Doc Fix My Plate, The Physician in the Kitchen's Prescriptions for Your Healthy Meal Makeover. We'll talk a little bit later about how you can get your hands on a copy. But first, I want to thank our sponsors. Our show today is being brought to you by MDM Enterprises, LLC, and May Medical Consulting, PLLC. So it's Saturday. So as usual, you're probably, if you're a busy mom, a busy dad, you are probably getting ready for back to school, or you may even already be in the throes of back to school, depending where you're listening to this from. Here in the Southeast, some of the kids are already back in school. I've talked about how I have dropped my son off at college, so I'm not in the same hustle bustle anymore as you guys, but I once was you. So my heart still goes out to you. And I've been there. It does get better. It does get better, but enjoy all these moments because I promise you, you will blink, you'll look up, and there will be an adult that used to be your baby girl or baby boy sitting at your table looking at you and about to go out into the world. So do cherish and enjoy these moments. But, today we are going to talk about what's in your pantry, or, maybe another way to think about it is how to set up your pantry. Of course, I talk about plant-based here on this show, vegan, also known as. And to give you a little background, to give you a little transparency, I describe myself as vegan-ish. You may have heard me mention this on prior episodes. And in fact, I host a show on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook on the blackdoctor.org page called Veganish. And I talk about my journey toward a more plant-based diet. If you tuned in last week, you heard about why I think diet is a 4-letter word. But if you missed it, go back and catch it. It was actually pretty good. So on that show, I talk about, kind of my journey, my aha moments, my successes and my failures. And a lot of that content or experience, I should call it, is actually the fuel or the genesis for the book, Doc Fix My Plate. So along the way, I started blogging about some of my experiences, and it all kind of came together. So the book is, kind of the combination of recipes plus tips and tricks, things that have helped me along the way. So passing them on to you. So today we're going to talk about how to set up your pantry, or maybe organize your pantry might be a better way to say that. So let me just, take a step back. If and when you decide to change your diet, you want to go more plant-based, you want to be vegan, vegetarian, whatever you want to call yourself. I don't think it's as important to get caught up in the labels per se, especially if they're going to be a roadblock or a hindrance to you making the changes. But when you do decide to make those changes, it's always good to kind of have a general idea, kind of a roadmap. And so that way, you kind of stay on course. You're not disorganized. You don't get overwhelmed. And I always tell people, when I'm when I'm speaking with them, by no means am I recommending that you go and you completely clean out your pantry or your refrigerator or cabinets, because that's really not realistic, right? Um, what I recommend or what I encourage is people make incremental changes. So week in, week out, as you're shopping, as you're replenishing, you want to incorporate these healthier changes. So that way it doesn't strike you as overwhelming. It's more doable, it's more realistic. So that's what we're going to get into today. It's one of the chapters in the book. So see, I'm giving you a free peek. I'm giving you a free peek into the book. I can't tell you everything that's in the book because then you won't want to buy it. But we are going to talk about my approach. And this is my approach. This is what I'm recommending. If you take from it what you will, and what works for you. Hopefully, something will jog something, or maybe you'll have your own aha moment. But we're going to talk about my approach to setting up a vegan pantry. So one of the challenges that people face when they decide to go plant-based is where to start. Right? I mean, we all know we should be eating more plants and fruits, plant-based fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, all of that stuff that we'll get into. But sometimes people are just like, well, but how do I start? How do I not get bored? How do I keep it interesting? How do I get enough protein? That was another show we got into about, can vegans get enough protein from just eating plants and fruits and vegetables? And the answer is yes. But we won't go down that path on this show. But it was the answer is yes. So I'm going to take you through my recommended steps. There are 3 steps that I recommend on setting up the pantry. And then we're going to talk about what you should have in your pantry. So step 1 is taking inventory. So what do I mean by that? So take inventory of what you have. Okay. Go into your pantry, see what you've got. Because you want to, you can't start your journey if without knowing where you are. So take stock kind of what you've got, especially if you're just starting out. If you're just starting out on a plant-based diet, or even if you're not, it might be time to kind of do some spring cleaning, some reorganization. So what you want to do is, as you go through this, think about these items and as far as, do they support your journey toward a more plant-based diet? You might want to check the ingredients, because sometimes the packaged things can have hidden ingredients that are animal-based. Things like gelatin or albumin, casein, whey, those are all kind of animal proteins. So you want to be careful with that, or you want to start to pay attention to that, I guess I should say. So while you're doing this, you may come across some foods that you're like, what, I bought this before, but now, you know better, you do better, and you don't want to eat it. You're not going to eat it. You're not going to use it. Consider giving it to a food pantry. So make a donation, a food drive, a food pantry, so that it doesn't go, completely to waste. So that's step 1, taking inventory. Step 2 is stocking the essentials. So what do I mean by that? You don't have to go out and buy everything the first day. This is day 1, you're being vegan. You don't need to go out and try to buy all of the vegan staples or basic ingredients on the first day. In fact, I don't recommend that. It can be expensive. And, again, you want to kind of you're learning this new path, and you're going to, along the way, determine what works for you and what doesn't. So going out and buying everything all at once is not ideal. Think about the types of foods that are really important to you and start there. So for example, if you're not a baker, or let's reverse that. If you are a baker, if you do a lot of baking, you want to start with supplies that will support your baking, the egg replacers, the dairy replacers, things that you will need in your baking activities. So, but that's it. But if conversely, if you're not a big baker, you don't necessarily need to go out and get those ingredients. But say, you're a cereal person, you've got to have your cereal every morning. Well, keep a variety of plant milks on hand, as well as the types of cereals that are going to be, vegan, high fiber, low sugar, things like that. That are made from grains, whole grains. You get the idea. So then once you get you've got to figure out what your eating preferences are, what your needs are, then you can start stocking your pantry. And as you go through the process, you'll start to add on those other ingredients or other basic items. So step 3 is kind of the natural segue to that, which is only purchase what you need. It can be pretty expensive if you're going to try to build a pantry from scratch. So just get what you need and build more along the way. So there may be certain types of ingredients you only need once in a while, like a special kind of bean or other item for a recipe, per se, for example. Don't start off with buying those. Get the beans that you're going to eat more often so that you can gradually add to your pantry and start to build meals with what you have on hand. So, things like pastas, grains, soup starters, things like that, the low sodium, when I say soup starters, I mean things that you can use to make soup, not processed or packaged soup starters. Things that are versatile that can be used in a variety of ways are things you're going to want to keep in your pantry. So if you're on a tight budget, think about buying things in bulk, like your almond milks, canned tomatoes, beans, pastas, things like that, rice, right? Think about buying those things in bulk, looking for sales, using coupons, things like that. Warehouse clubs can be a great place to stock up on things like that. When I buy my beans, because I keep a variety of tomato products like tomato paste, crushed tomatoes, diced tomatoes, I tend to get those things from the warehouse clubs. And then you want to stock things that can be used in multiple dishes. So again, beans can be used anything from breakfast to dessert, right? Chili and soups and brownies and things like that. So you want to keep things on hand that can be versatile so that you don't get bored along the way. So we're going to stop here and take a quick commercial break. And on the other side of this, I'm going to give you some examples of things that you should have in your pantry. See you on the other side.
If you want to educate, empower, and inspire our community, we're providing a wonderful opportunity for anyone who feels they can make a positive impact in the lives of others by applying to be an on-air radio personality. To set up an interview, call 877-342-7770. That's 877-342-7770 to apply. This is your chance to step out on faith. This is your chance to get the experience and education that you need in order to launch to the next level of greatness and make a significant difference. WDRB Media is now hiring on-air radio personalities. If this is you, no experience is required, no previous education needed. They do all the training. Call 877-342-7770 to set up your interview today.
All right, so welcome back. You are listening to Fix Your Plate with Dr. Monique. And if you're just joining us, we are talking about what's in your pantry. Or another way to say that is what's in your vegan pantry, or how to stock your vegan pantry, your plant-based pantry. So earlier we spoke about my 3 steps on setting up your pantry. The first one was taking inventory of what you already have. Step 2, stock the essentials. And step 3, only purchase what you need. So now that we have some kind of a basic idea of what to do, or how to approach it, let's talk about what you should have in your pantry. So what I'm sharing with you is my approach, how I've set my pantry up. So, hopefully this is helpful for you, if nothing more, at least to kind of get the creative juices flowing and help you get things organized. So my pantry is set up kind of from top to bottom, kind of in the order that I use things. And by that, I mean, my top shelf is dedicated to things that I use for breakfast. So of course you're going to modify this, right, based on the size of your pantry, how much space you have, lighting, all of those things. So again, this is my approach. So you would modify this to however, works for you. So my top shelf tends to be my breakfast items, things like whole grain, hot cereals, like if you eat oatmeal, or for me, it'd be quinoa. My son's cold cereals are there on the top shelf. Any plant milks that may be, shelf stable, that are not refrigerated yet, because I haven't opened them. Say if you use vegan pancake mixes, you can maybe store that there. And vegan baked goods, but additive free, right? You don't want all those chemicals and preservatives. So if you buy those pre-made, and those are your kind of your breakfast go-tos, you might stock those there. On the next shelf, I have I really call that like my workhorse shelf, because that's got my whole wheat pastas, my grains, things like dried mushrooms, dried peppers, those things that I use to build flavors in sauces and stocks and soups. So my second shelf, and the reason those things are there, kind of it's eye level, right? I go in, those are the things I'm going to see very easily. So I also may have quinoa here, because quinoa, one of the beautiful things about quinoa is not just you can eat it for breakfast, but you can also eat it, of course, as an entree. So rice, pasta, quinoa, any of the other types of grains like farro or millet, amaranth, any of those types of things would be there. You may also put canned goods there, if you have your tomatoes or your canned things like canned beans, those types of things might be here, or your dried beans, right? Those are actually more economical, per serving. Dried beans are more economical. Canned beans, of course, are easier to work with because they've already, done the work for you. But dried beans, of course, are pennies per serving. But those are types of things that might be there. Tomato sauces as well, right? If you any type of tomato product, I'm a big fan of keeping a variety of tomato products on hand. But I do want to give a word of caution about pasta sauce or tomato sauce, because those can be, a lot of the more popular brands are actually loaded with sugar. And we're going to do a show about reading labels in the future. But I'll just say now that I've actually, watch which brands I do buy. Most times I just make it myself. It's very easy to make your own pasta sauce. Yes, I have a recipe in the book about that. But, in a pinch and you want to use something pre-made, there's nothing wrong with that. But you want to watch because there's a lot of added sugar, a lot in some of the brands on the market now. So we started at the top with breakfast things. Also, I also keep my tea there. I have a big thing of tea, tea bags. So green tea, black tea, those types of teas. If you do, hot chocolate, I do indulge every now and then. So, because to me, that's breakfasty kind of things. But those things are on the top, and then my second shelf is my dried goods and sometimes canned beans and things like that. I also tend to keep some of that stuff in shelves on shelves in the kitchen itself. But again, this is just a general approach to how you lay things out because you want to make it easy, right? You want to open your pantry and say, okay, I'm either planning a meal or I'm planning my menu for the week. Let me see what I've got. So by keeping it somewhat organized, it's really time saving. Okay. So then my third shelf, I would say in my pantry is my baking shelf. Now I'm a baker. So in the book, you'll notice there are some recipes I have vegan and gluten-free pound cakes in the book. So part of the fun for me, I call my kitchen my lab because I like to get in there and experiment. So part of the fun for me was coming up with these recipes because I had to make them vegan, right? So that means they couldn't have eggs, they couldn't have white sugar because white sugar technically is not vegan. And they also had to be, I couldn't use butter. I couldn't use, regular traditional butter. So that meant experimenting with a lot of substitutes. So for me, baking is kind of a big deal. So I have a shelf dedicated to kind of my baking stuff. When I say that out loud, it sounds kind of funny, but I like it because it keeps me organized. So I have all the different types of sugars, my organic confectioner sugar, my coconut sugar, cane sugars. I've got all my different types of flours, my bread flour, my all-purpose flour, my cake flour, my gluten-free flour, chocolate chips or whatever add-ins I'll use, my nuts, my chocolate chips, coconut shreds, things, all those types of things are in that part of the pantry because again, helps me stay organized. And it's time saving. My additional sweeteners, agave that I use in moderation, maple syrup before it's opened. After you open maple syrup, you're actually supposed to refrigerate it, but unopened, it can be on the shelf. So just those kinds of things. And then underneath that, I have more of I tend to keep like kind of storage things there. So a true story. For one year for Christmas, I asked for mason jars. I know who does that, right? Who asks for mason jars? Well, I do I did because I wanted to store stuff in glass. And just a little quick side trick here. Glass is a preferred storage form versus some of these plastics. The ones that are BPA free are good, are better. But like if you want to heat up your food, it's not recommended to do that in plastic. So I was asking for mason jars because if I'm making my own, like I said, tomato sauce or sausage in general, I wanted, something glass to store them in. So couldn't really find, my mom tried, she couldn't find the size that I wanted. Now I see them everywhere. But for whatever reason, this particular year that I asked for them, couldn't find them in the sizes I wanted. So I started paying attention to my pasta sauce that I was buying. Those jars are perfect. So I would just soak them, peel the label off, and voila, nice sized mason jars, my little jelly jars, so I have a wide variety. I have like the little narrow skinny bottles that capers come in all the way up to, jelly jars up to the large pasta sauce jars. So I keep those in my pantry because particularly with me just finishing culinary school, if I'm making harissa sauce or chermoula or what's the other one? Oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank. I just had it the other day. I can't think of the name, but it's green. It's got cilantro. Oh my goodness, chimichurri sauce. So if I'm making any of those sauces myself, I want to be able to store those in a nice glass airtight container. So I have those there on my shelf, aluminum foil, things like that, things that are used for storage and packaging, quote unquote. So, but also too, down in the lower levels of my pantry, I'll keep my snacks. And the lower level is so that they're not going to be at eye level, right? So if you're trying not to overindulge, first of all, don't have the snacks in your house. But if you do have them, keep them kind of out of eyes, out of your sight of vision, your line of vision, so that they're not going to be the first thing that you see. But we're going to assume that these are all healthy snacks, right? But still, anything in moderation. But so this would be where you keep your granola bars, your protein bars, rice cakes, air popped chips, veggie chips, dried fruits, things like fruit roll ups, fruit cups. But again, you want to be careful, read those labels and avoid the ones that are just loaded with sugar or, extra syrup and things like that. And then you also want to have room for a variety of your miscellaneous items. Nut milks, any of your plant-based milk, nut, soy, oat, rice milk, because again, a lot of them are sold in shelf-stable packaging, and you only have to refrigerate them after you open them. Your nuts, your seeds, things like almonds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, all of those types of things. We've talked about tomato products, canned jackfruit. Jackfruit is a wonderful meat replacement. And if you're going to stock up, that might be something you want to keep in your pantry. Other canned vegetables, such as beans or artichokes, hearts of palm, these are all great. Fiber booster, they give like good texture to your foods and can be a great addition to meals. And then, we've kind of already mentioned some of the grain products, but just, brown, red, or purple rice, buckwheat flour, quinoa, whole wheat pasta, oatmeal, popcorn. Popcorn counts as a grain. So all those, and, think about barley and buckwheat as well, because some of these are going to be gluten-free, which will be better options for people who are gluten intolerant. And then your condiments. So if you don't make a lot of the stuff yourself, you want to at least be mindful of, what are some of your vegan options. So most of the condiments, it's funny, condiments kind of walk the line. A lot of them are vegan. Things like ketchup, mustard, things like that. But you've got coconut aminos, which is a low sodium soy and gluten-free option that gives you umami, adds a nice savory flavor to your meals. Vinegar is good. It's a good thing to have on here. Apple cider vinegar is something you want to keep in your pantry for sure. Vegan mayonnaise, nutritional yeast, all of these are things that you want to have in your pantry to help build your flavors, build those tastes that you're looking for when you're replacing meat. And then adding whatever other items you like. This is just a kind of a rundown of what I like, things that I recommend. So this list is only meant to be a starting point, right? It's not meant to be the end all be all, because I can't name and tell you every single thing. But what I hope you come away from this with is that, this is a way to approach it, to maybe think about organization and going from how you're going to organize it and go from there. So I've been talking about the book. So let me tell you how to get your hands on a copy, an autographed copy of Doc Fix My Plate. Go to docfixmyplatebook.com. So that's docfixmyplatebook.com to get your autographed copy of Doc Fix My Plate, the Physician in the Kitchen's prescriptions for your healthy meal makeover. I am wishing you the best week, the best health. Invest in your health one plate at a time. Please, please, please follow me at Physician in the Kitchen on all social media. I would love to hear from you. DM or message me. If you have questions, drop a line at media, that's MEDIA at drmonique.com. And I'd love to hear from you. Wishing you good health, one plate at a time. Good health, good food, one plate at a time. Until next time, I am Dr. Monique, your board certified family physician who you know as a physician in the kitchen. Until next time, take care.